The Double Confluence Strategy using the POW Banker EA has by far been one of the most successful strategies and most consistent strategies that we've seen used in the recent history. Now, what we're going to do today in this video is do a deep dive in terms of the different settings that make up a strategy like the Double Confluence Strategy and what variations of that might be interesting to use and test out to modify your trading moving forward. If you guys don't know me and you're new to the channel, my name's Cameron. I'm a 10-year algo trader. I've been trading automatically for the past 10 years profitably. Started manual trading like many of you maybe have or maybe are right now and considering making the leap into automated trading. In that journey, I learned everything there is to learn about proper backtesting, about the difference between quote off-the-shelf plug-and-play EAs and a true automated system that allows you to modify the way your algos trade in line with your own psychology and in line with your own strategy preferences. I've learned about how the different strategies, as a manual trader, when you're looking at indicators while you're trading, in real time on charts, how those compare to, leveraging those same indicators, but putting them into a massive data model in order to get an algorithm to make those trades automatically and remove the emotion out of the trading. So I take all of that knowledge, I feed it back to you guys. We've got a community of thousands of different members that are leveraging our tools, our strategies, our systems to have 5-figure months every single month through prop trading, through live capital, and a variation of different methodologies, all using our automated systems, all building set files and building strategies unique to them. That's the key thing. We don't focus on, nothing I'm going to say on this video is, hey, here's a set file, here's an EA that will work for everybody all the time, buy it, use it. We focus on education, we focus on sustainability, and we focus on you guys being independent of us. It's my goal to make you an independent trader through automation, get you into automated trading so that you don't have to spend hours in front of charts. Our traders spend about 2 hours a week modifying, updating, backtesting, and then pushing those things out for the week and letting the trades take place all on their own. So that's what this channel is about. Today specifically, we're going to do a deep dive on a strategy that's worked really well for our members. We're going to talk about the fundamentals, how to set it up, how it might work for you, tweaks you may want to make in order to make it more personalized to you. So we're going to jump right into that here on the screen and later on the whiteboard as well. So we're going to jump into my my VPS here where I've got MetaTrader open. Now, when we talk about double confluence, what you're looking at here are the inputs to the Banker EA, right? And we're in the strategy tester of MetaTrader 5. So if we're setting up a backtest, for example, we want to test some strategy that's going to, starting in January and rolling all the way through July. Essentially what this is going to do is MetaTrader is going to place trades, is going to use historical market data to simulate what would have happened if this algorithm made up of this logic here that you see on this screen were to have been running for the past 7 months. Well, would it have been profitable? Would it have lost money? What would the drawdown have been? How many trades would it have placed? And so on. And the reason we do that is because we're trying to understand how we can leverage past data to create a new set file that's going to be profitable into the future. Now, there's never a guarantee. You're never going to see, oh, this backtest looks really good, so therefore it's going to play out into the future. And as long as it was massively profitable in the past, it will always be massively profitable in the future. That's never going to happen because markets are constantly changing. Your conditions and your settings need to be constantly changing as well in order to stay in line with those market conditions. Now, one of the ways we can hedge against the uncertainty in the market is through the walk forward analysis. So I'm going to go to the whiteboard here. I'm going to show you how walk forward analysis works. This is the first thing you fundamentally need to understand when you're building any new strategy and you're testing new concepts, new ideas, or you're experimenting with new set files that you want to run on the market. The first thing you need to understand is how to properly backtest so that you're not overfitting, right? So if this chart represents the time of the backtest over the amount of money that's being made on that backtest, you might end up with a graph that looks something like this, that over time it shows you, hey, if this algorithm would have been trading with this logic, with these inputs, here's the overall profitability over time. It would have made, $100,000 in a year. I'm making up numbers, right? That's a massive amount. But okay, so then depending on account balance or whatever, right? But the point of this is throughout this historical data, what's happening is, and I'm going to do this in its simplest form, right? The EA or the trading bot or whatever you want to call it is entering and exiting trades based on certain conditions, right? And you're going to tell the bot what conditions to enter the trade based off of. So if we go back into the computer here, you're going to see inside of our EA settings, we have 4 main criteria that we look for to enter trades with. EMA, RSI, ADX, and Bollinger Bands. You have the option to use all 4 of those, or maybe just one of them, or 2 or 3, depending on, again, how you want to trade, what strategies you want to use, what logic you would like the bot to be entering trades based off of. Of course, the more of these you use, the lower the volume. So that's important. My checklist for when to trade, if I'm telling the EA, hey, here's when to trade, and that checklist is, well, EMA has to be good based on whatever parameters, RSI, ADX, and the Bollinger Bands need to be correct. If I'm waiting for this to say, yep, that's good, all of these are good, before then now entering a trade, the amount of times that all of these are going to occur at the same time is going to be far less than if I said I only care about EMA. I only want it, as long as it's above 3 EMAs, then go ahead and open long positions. But if it has to be above all 3 EMAs, and the markets have to be oversold, and the directional index is forced, we're asking it to tell us that it is in fact a trending market based on ADX, and that we're not on the extreme of the Bollinger Band, that we're still at a part where, okay, there's still upside to this market. If I'm waiting for all 4 of those things to be confluential before entering a trade, the number of trades I'm going to enter is going to be far less than, again, if I only am looking for RSI or I'm only looking for EMA. Now, the trade-off with that is you're going to have higher likelihood of those being very solid, sound trades, because fundamentally speaking, if all of those things, all those indicators are telling you that this is a good position all at the same time, well, the likelihood that that's actually a good trade and is going to be profitable is going to be pretty high. So in our community, this is where the one trade concept came into fashion, where historically speaking, our bot would open trades, and then if markets moved against that position, we would cost average and create a new take profit and wait for markets to then reverse. But we entered this capability in here to actually open 1 trade or 2 trades max. So you're just opening one position with a stop loss and a take profit. The way that was introduced is because as we started to add more indicators to how the bot enters and exits trades, the volume is so low, the probability that trade is profitable becomes higher. So you can start to do these risk reward analysis through the backtest to see, hey, if I'm getting a 3-to-1 risk to reward, I don't need to trade a lot. I only need a couple trades a day. And I can be profitable. So that's how a lot of the strategies we build and we teach and we create templates for inside of our community sort of come to life. So when you look at that, you've got all these different indicators that can be used. When we build an optimization, what we're telling the EA to do is test different criteria related to each of these different indicators. So the EMA, for example, we are not going to optimize for the EMA. You can see there's no checkbox is not ticked there, right? We're going to have that true. That would mean that in this backtest that we're about to run, we always want to check for the EMA. We could tick this box and say, hey, we'd like to see how the results vary if we use EMA versus if we don't use EMA. When you're optimizing and running an optimization and running a backtest through MetaTrader, one of the key things to do is make sure that it's logical what you're testing for. You need to have a strategy going into it. You need to understand before you even get into MetaTrader and run your backtest, what strategy am I using? Do I want a lot of trades or do I want hardly any trades? These are really few trades. These are really basic questions you can ask yourself. We can go on and on with these, right? Do I want high probability or do I want bigger winners, right? Everything in the markets is a trade-off, right? You can't have a set that wins 90% of the time and makes a shit ton of money and only loses a small amount when it loses. Those things can't go together. You have to choose which combination of those 2 items is going to fit your psychology. You can have an algorithm that wins 99% of its trades and makes very small amounts, but when it loses large. Or you can have a strategy that doesn't win that often, but loses very small, but when it does win, it wins big and wipes out, all of the losers. The edge is that little difference between those 2 things. The difference between the probability, the number of trades you've won or lost, right? Your win rate and your probability. Those 2 things are critical to find the right balance so that you can actually have an edge on the market, right? So that's really what you're looking for in this backtest, but you've got to ask yourself psychologically, how do you want to trade? And then once you know that, you can go in here and you can say, okay, well, for example, I only want to trade in the direction of the trend. That's really important to me. I'm speaking hypothetically now, right? So you might be a trader who it's been burned in your brain as a manual trader. Now you're coming into automation that you always trade in the direction of the trend. Well, that's no problem. So then just set the EMA to true. And then what you're optimizing for is the time frames and the time periods of that EMA, right? So which time frame is the best to use? Is it the 1 minute EMA or is it the 4 hour? Is it the 4, 8, and 60 time periods of that time frame? Or is it the 10, 50, 200, for example? By having these boxes ticked and telling the backtesting tool to start at one of these and end at the next one, basically what you're saying is test all of the possible combinations of EMA settings and tell me which one gives the best results. But always use EMA. Always keep EMA set to true, but test all of the different possible combinations. Now you can combine EMA then with RSI if you wanted as well. So you can say, not only do I want EMA to tell me that the markets are on the right side of the EMA and that's the only direction that I'm trading, but I also want RSI to be in line with the fact that this is a buy signal. So above all the EMAs and the markets are oversold at the time. So that would mean that markets are pushing up and now retracting back to the EMA, and you're looking for a bounce off of the EMA to enter a trade. That would be using EMA on and RSI on at the same time. Now, if you include ADX in that, you now have a third piece of confirmation. You're saying now that above all of the EMAs and coming back, retracting back to the EMA, so I'm getting the best possible entry, waiting for it to be oversold, and I want the directional index to be telling me that this is a trending market, that momentum is pushing markets in one direction, that it's not ranging, right? That's three indicators that are now telling you to enter the trade. And then the final one would be Bollinger Bands, which you're looking to avoid the extremities of the move. So you don't want to be at a part of the market where you're at the outer edge of a Bollinger Band. The trend might not be valid anymore because it's, extreme. So what you have to ask yourself really is, of all of those things, is it really necessary to have all of those on? For example, RSI is already telling you that it's overbought or oversold. So do you really need the Bollinger Bands in addition to that to tell you that it's at a market extreme? Well, probably not. You would probably want to use one or the other or neither, right? Do you really need EMA plus ADX to tell you that this is a trending market? Well, you might argue yes for double confluence. You might argue no, and that you would potentially be missing out on profitability because the ADX isn't as strong as it needed to be, yet it was still a valid trending market. Those are the trade-offs you have to ask yourself as you're building an optimization file that you're going to use to ultimately build a set file you're going to trade in a market that's going to work in line with your psychology, right? So this is fundamentally how this works. Now, this is something that no other EA is going to teach you, right? Other EAs are going to just tell you,
hey, pick a set file from a list. We've curated it for you. Throw it onto your account. Try to make it unique so you don't get flagged for copy trading, and push it out there and away you go.
What we're teaching here is fundamentally how to operate as a real trader, as a professional trader, understand why the EA is placing the trades that it's placing, modify the settings to be in line with what you want it to be, and then run a proper backtest that includes walk forward analysis so that it's not overfit, so that you can have a profitable and sustainable trading strategy. Now, I'm not going to go much deeper in this video. If you want access to the deeper levels of training, and we get into things that are really, we use things like delay, live delay, our news filter, different ways of managing the sequence once the first trade is open, including single trade strategies versus sequential strategies, inverse trading, different take profit settings that you can use to set stop loss or trailing stop. We have things like daily max profit settings, so it just closes off the EA when it hits a certain target. All of these things are in addition to just the fundamental core strategies that are telling the trading algorithm when to enter and exit trades. There's all of these settings as well about managing when trades are open that are all in here. There's a completely different EA that we've developed that's specifically looking for red folder news events, that's capitalizing on massive volatility one way or the other, where you can trade before or after the news event or even during that news event. All of that educational content, all of the deep dive, all of the significant value and training it lives within our community. So there is a button in the description you can click to apply to join that community. We include a 50K funded account for all of our new members that you can use. If you profit on that account, you get to keep the profits. If it doesn't go so well during the learning period, that's fine. You're able to actually reset the account at any time and start over. It's an unbelievable offer as a way to get new traders into algo trading and into an account that has no risk on their personal capital, but has the upside capability of earning profits if you do learn quickly and do well. But you'll be able to carry that account with you for your entire lifetime of your membership with us. So as your skills are sharpened, you'll be able to turn that thing into a profit-making machine that you can use to then go get other prop capital and feed other live funds and all of that. So all of that is available once you become a POW member. Click the link in the description to join the thousands of others that are seeing 5-figure months on a monthly basis. And once you put in your application, if you're approved, you'll be taken to an offer page. And then you can reach out to us if you have any questions or anything like that, or accept the offer, and we'll see you inside of the community through the onboarding process. This is really fundamentally how we build out the set files and the optimization files. And then we go into our tool here, which is called AutoTester, which allows us to take that strategy that we've just created that says, hey, we want to trade with the EMA, we want to trade with ADX, whatever inputs we want to use, however we want to manage the sequence. We're now going to test that across a wide array of different pairs and different sets to figure out, does this strategy work best on Euro USD, or does it work best on gold? Does it work best on indices? Does it work best on crypto or on stocks, right? So you can trade a wide variety of different instruments. But essentially what you've done is you've created what's called a parameter file that you're going to load in here, and it's going to use that parameter file to run a series of tests across a bunch of different pairs. And then once those tests are complete, you'll be able to see a graph of all of the different set files that were created. So in this example, the test that I ran actually gave me results across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different pairs. It actually looks like 4 pairs. There's 2 gold and 2 Euro USD that have repeated. I've essentially told the strategy tester that I want to look for reverse, range, and trending strategies. So in one test that I ran, I said only trade based on the side of the EMA that it's on, and that the average directional index is supporting that hypothesis that it's in a trending market. The other one, I'm looking for extremes on the Bollinger Bands. Once it hits an extreme, I'm looking for the market to reverse. And then the other one that I set up is if it's in between the EMAs and the ADX is telling us that it's moving sideways, that's a ranging market. So trade accordingly, use more, buy low, sell high scalping strategies inside of the range. So in running that test, I was given a wide array of different results, multiple different strategies. They're bundled all into one account. So now this one account is running about 6 different strategies. The blue line represents the overall profitability of those strategies combined, and the colored lines on the bottom represent each individual strategy. So essentially what I've been able to do by mixing and matching different strategies that don't overlap with each other is I was able to create a set file that makes about $40,000 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think this is about 6.5 months on a back test. You can see each month how much that account had made during this backtest period, and then therefore the total. And you can also see that there's only one time during that entire period that the account drew down more than $2,000. That would be 2%. This is a 100K account. So this is 41% over about a 5-month period. And it only drew down, the maximal drawdown was a little over 2%. And that only happened one time. And it was a combination of these two that had open positions at the same time that led to that drawdown. So that's the type of analytics that you get. So being able to build your own strategy in line with how you want to trade as if you were a manual trader. It's the same indicators, but now you're using logic to build those inputs. You then get presented with a massive array of results through Set Generator. Set Generator actually ranks through what we call the POW score. So we actually have an algorithm built in that based on recovery factor, based on profit factor, based on consistency between the back test and the forward test, it ranks it as a score. So it already pre-ranks and tells you the results from your back test and which ones it believes are the best. You can combine those and actually see what the results would have been historically. Now you can take these without any other work. You're then going to download the set files that are responsible for this backtest and load them onto a MetaTrader 5 account. And then you're going to let that thing trade in the live markets and realize the potential of it. But you've got full control of the backtest. Like I said at the beginning of the video, it's much different than manual trading in that all of the work comes in this portion of it. It's in structuring the backtest. It's in analyzing the results of the backtest. And then it's in selecting the final files that you believe are the strongest and most consistent. And then you put it into the markets. And then as the week goes, you're not doing anything but maybe checking your phone, a couple of times just to validate that things are working properly. But you come back to this tool once a weekend, once every other weekend even. You spend about an hour or two tweaking and modifying, and then you let it play out for the next couple of weeks. And if you do that on a regular basis, you've now got a full automated strategy that's yielding you massive results, allowing you to pass prop firm challenges, allowing you to scale your live capital in a way that's completely revolutionary compared to traditional manual trading, and in a way that allows you to trade multiple accounts at once. And that's a big deal. With manual trading, you can only be staring at so many screens at a time, right? But with automated trading, I can trade 10 to 15 accounts with 10 to 15 varying strategies across different prop firms, different live capital accounts, all at the same time, exponentially growing my ability to be profitable in the market. Guys, if you found this video valuable, there's so much more content and value inside of our community. There's additional value in this channel. Check out the other videos. Leave a comment with your questions. Happy to address anything that you guys have. The link in the description will lead you to apply to join our community if you want to gain access to these tools and this methodology and be coached. We offer one-on-one private coaching as well. If you're interested in that, reach out to us. Otherwise, please subscribe, like the video, share it with a friend who's interested in trading, and continue to stay in tune with the channel. We've got so much more content coming down the pipe, just like this video. And thanks so much for joining.